Hey, what's up everyone? It's Linda Key here coming at you from the unceded territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy and Métis Region 3, otherwise known as Mohkinstsis, where I feel privileged to live, work, play, and create. Today's special guest is Chris Josue, artist, martial artist, mover, dancer, and life coach, here to talk to us about empowerment.
Lately I've been trying to find my way to a place where life is more than empty space. Wondering where I belong, just don't fit in, 'cause I choose not to play along, no. Life is on for me.
Welcome everyone to Being Under the Influence. Today's episode features fellow artist and honorary brother Chris Josue. This episode, we're going to be speaking about the influence and this new kind of wave as Westerners here in Alberta, in Canada, of the idea of self-care, the idea of empowerment. Chris, you mentioned post-pandemic empowerment.
Yes.
Just the effects of how the pandemic has affected our well-being, our mental health, our physical health, but also exploring some of the barriers that would stop someone to seek support.
Right.
I think, we'll talk about that more later. But I wanted to allow yourself to introduce yourself. Chris Josue, everyone. Actually, I will say a few words. I do know Chris through a bunch of different arts communities, dancing, martial arts. We're both from the Filipinx diaspora here in Calgary, Alberta. And we both recently returned from living on the West Coast for a while. I've been back for 5 years in Calgary, but you recently moved back. So I'm going to pass the torch over to you, Chris, and please share whatever you like.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me, first of all, and inviting me onto your podcast. I appreciate it. Much love. My name is Chris, and I recently just moved back to Calgary from the West Coast, from the island. I was there for about almost 4 years, but originally from Calgary. So, and that's when, we go way back. So
We were probably like 10. You might have been 10, I might have been 12.
Yeah. So a long time ago. Yeah. So we know each other for like 30 years. Maybe more. Yeah. So lately I've just been on this awesome journey of finding myself, learning more about myself, and and it's a beautiful ride. I'm enjoying every moment of it.
Cool. I will say, can you talk a little bit about, before you started this journey of, so you've now become a life coach recently. You graduated from a program. And I want to take the audience back a little bit to a lot of your practice in terms of being an artist with martial arts and with being a part of the crew, being a b-boy and all that was huge, right? So can you talk a little bit about that, your experience and your journey before you decided to become?
Yeah. Well, I started out at the age of 4 as a martial artist. My father put me in it at a very young age. So I took martial arts since then.
What style did he put you in the first?
I first took Hapkido, Kamsodo, Taekwondo, and then I have been trained in capoeira a little bit, not too much. I did some conventional boxing, I did some kickboxing, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well.
Cool.
Yeah. So a lot of different disciplines for sure. And in all those disciplines, I've learned so many different things. I mean, that obviously they all come from different roots. They all come from different backgrounds, different nations. So you kind of learn more about each culture as you learn through the martial arts.
Okay, I have a question. Is
Yeah.
there one or two that kind of stand out for you in terms of a philosophy that you've carried on through, like, up until today?
Yeah, I mean, definitely for sure. For me, would have to be the Korean martial arts with Hapkido, Kamsodo, and Taekwondo, because I learned all three in kind of in one school. I was brought up by this very hardcore Master Yoon was his name, and he was in the Korean Army, and he instilled in us a lot of discipline. Like he would check our nails to make sure that they were cut. He would check like everything, like
Your hair?
he would
You
check
are like this,
he
like-
would check our ears actually, make sure our ears are clean, make sure there's no dirt underneath our nails. Like he was very disciplined, very strict. He would talk to the parents a lot, make sure that we were behaving in school. If we weren't behaving in school, then he would kind of old school techniques. He would bring with this thing called the medicine stick. And we would get a taste of the medicine stick if we weren't behaving.
So it sounds like at that young age, this teacher, it sounds like he had a very kind of full, I don't want to say holistic, but like for him to be, asking how you're doing in school and talking to your parents, it's like this approach that it's your being, not just in class, but who you are in different communities.
Exactly how you present yourself.
Yeah.
Respect was a huge thing. Respect your elders, but most importantly, respect yourself was one thing that he really instilled in us.
Right. That's a good reminder sometimes of like what we're able to show someone. Like the challenge is, how do we show that to ourselves? Okay. So thank you for sharing that. I'd like to fast forward a little bit to seeking support. And I personally feel like it can be a challenge. And we all come from different intersections, but it can be a challenge to admit, okay, I have a challenge with something. I need help.
Right.
And which connects this idea of finding either a mentor, a teacher, or a coach. Did something happen that made you realize that you wanted to reach out for support? Because I think there is a stigma, and I'm specifically asking you as a man as well, and someone you can even touch upon culturally, like as a Filipino, like coming from an immigrant family, like what were some barriers and what helped you make that choice to say, okay, I'm going to seek some type of mentorship or
Right.
or leadership. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can go really deep into this, right? I mean, I believe that like life is a roller coaster ride, right? You have your ups, you have your downs. You feel happy, you feel sad. You go through different stages in life, which we all do. In my life personally, I've been through it all. I've been through life. I've been through friends passing away, family passing away. Disappointments, successes as well. And I think it's very important to celebrate it all. You can't move on unless you deal with something, I believe. And growing up, in Asian culture, from Philippines, a lot of my East Indian friends and stuff like that. As a man growing up in those cultures, it's very hard to express yourself verbally or even emotionally, because there's a stigma of you're a man, you have to be strong, you have to don't cry, don't be tough, so we're always raised to present ourselves in that way, and growing up in a culture like that, it was very tough to let yourself be vulnerable, and so you're missing, without being able to be vulnerable. I believe that you're missing half of yourself, because there is a balance. Things can be just as bad as they are good.
Yeah, I just wanted to share, like, you saying those words, like missing half of yourself. That really resonates with me. Like I could feel it in my body, like the truth of that. for sure.
Yeah, and it hits us hard, man, women, whatever. Like it's something that we all have to learn about ourselves. And with us being able to seek help and want change, I believe it starts within. So the type of life coaching that I do is I call myself an introspective relationship coach.
Do you mean like interest, like relationship with yourself?
Introspective is your relationship with yourself, with your mind, your heart, everything that you can control inside. But because I'm a martial arts background, I'm a firm believer in mind over matter, right? Like if you can control your mind can control your breathing. Once you can control your breathing, you can control everything else. You can get yourself back, out of sticky situations. So when I say introspective, it's all about just having full control. It won't matter what anybody says, what anybody thinks, what anybody does. Only you can control how you react to things. And to me, that's very important.
Awesome. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. When was it? So you're growing up, or feeling kind of the pressure of not being able to be vulnerable or express yourself. When was there a time that you remember when you thought, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this on to be vulnerable. And like, where did you find those spaces where you could express yourself the way that you felt was missing earlier?
For me, honestly, I learned expression through dance. First of all, I mean, I'm a b-boy. I grew up with a hip hop culture, and I found that breaking, is so freeing. A lot of dances out there are very structured, like ballet. You have to do this, you have to point your toes like this or that. Whereas with street dance, with hip hop, it's freedom of expression. So when that music comes on and you get down, you do what you feel. So it's kind of funny because when they have all these dance competitions going on and in TV and stuff, and people were like, oh, you're gonna go and try out for so you think you can dance and this and that. I always felt like no, like, because I don't want a contemporary dancer to tell me that I'm expressing myself in a wrong way. So I never really agreed to being judged like that.
Right.
So that's when the whole freedom of expression for me started. And of course, that was all physically at first.
Right.
For sure. I danced when I was happy. I danced when I was sad. I danced when I was mad. I danced no matter what was going on in the world. Once I turned that music on and I hit that floor, I was free.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can share that feeling. Hip hop culture has given me a place to feel expressive as well, a safe place to express yourself, whether it's through movement or writing or how you express your energy. So okay, let's fast forward a little bit.
Okay.
So you're in this dance culture, and you're starting to feel the freedom. So how has that led you now to becoming a life coach?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that went on in my life that kind of actually forced me to kind of learn more about myself. Like with me I'm also a massage therapist.
Right, the body work thing.
Yeah, yes. So when I was doing massage therapy, and I'm still practicing today, it's always me, trying to heal, trying to serve others, right? And I was doing great. I felt like I was helping people. I was changing people's lives. But I just felt like there was more that I could provide other people, right? In order for me to, I realized that in order for me to do that, I have to be able to learn more about myself. So in order for me to help them, I have to help myself first.
Yeah, and understand yourself. Like you said, introspection, like how we relate to ourselves.
Exactly. And it's all about the mindset, right? So with that, I just started doing a lot of meditation, I'm a 5 a.m. person, so I wake up at 5 a.m. When I was living out on the island, I would wake up at 5 a.m., drive to the ocean, do meditation for about half an hour or so, and then go to work. So I would start my day off every day that way. And I found that when I started doing that, my whole day changed. Like, the way people would interact with me. If somebody was negative towards me, I would just kind of just brush it off. Yep, just be like, you can't affect me. Only I can affect me. It's how I react to your negativity. If I react negatively back to you, it's just going to go back and forth, back and forth. But if I absorb some of your negativity and give you positivity, hopefully that makes a change, right? And that changes the whole dynamic of the workplace. That changes the whole energy, and things become positive.
Yeah, it changes the trajectory.
Yeah.
I'd like to add to that too, that also means that we have to take accountability, right? I feel like what you're sharing is making me think about how we can point the finger and say, my day is like this because of what you did, and that
Exactly.
could absolutely be true, but it's how we respond, and I think getting back to the idea of empowerment, it's that perspective, that lens, that allows us to find empowerment, even though we're in a place where somebody could have even purposely wanted to
Right. Yeah.
hurt us in some
Definitely.
way.
And that's very true. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that is the biggest difference, between mentoring, psychology, stuff like that. So with coaching, all I do as a life coach is I ask you deep reflective questions, right? So you come up with your own answers. So you get to celebrate your successes or your failures, and you get to hold yourself accountable, right? With a mentor or a psychologist, what tends to happen is people will seek guidance or help from them because they believe that they have the answers.
The person they're asking.
Yeah, the professional has the answers. So if you go to a psychologist or a mentor, and they start giving you advice or things to do, if you take that advice and you put that in, but you still don't succeed, then you're the one that's going to be like, you told me to do this.
Yeah,
So I failed, so it's your fault.
Got you. That didn't work. What you told me didn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're still holding the professional accountable for their non-actions.
Right.
But as a coach, and being a client of a coach, you're accountable for your own actions.
Yeah.
So what I do as a life coach is I just ask you deep questions that you can answer to find within yourself and motivate yourself. And if, like I said, if you succeed, that's all on you. If you fail, that's all on you. I don't hold any accountability for your successes or your failures.
Right.
So as a coach, I learn just as much as you're learning,
Got you.
which is the beautiful thing about coaching. Whereas the other ones, it's like the coaches, the psychologist or a mentor is like at a level 9, and the client is at a level 5,
Right.
right? So the psychologist doesn't get anything out of it, just the client does.
Right. This makes me think that it's really the relationship.
It's the
right?
connection.
The connection between both. And
Right.
that's a beautiful thing too, because it's creates more unity. It's not
Definitely.
like, okay, well, you're the person lying on the couch and I'm the one sitting in the chair.
Right.
Just a different power dynamic.
Exactly.
And so I really, that's really cool.
And like in my eyes, you never stop learning. You're always a student.
Yeah.
Like even if I'm your coach, I'm not here to tell you what to do. Like I'm learning just as much as you are.
Right.
And that's what makes it so beautiful,
Awesome. I love that idea of asking the questions and saying,
Yeah.
instead of like, I'm going to go to you because you're going to give me answers,
Exactly.
that we discover our answers.
Yes.
Before I ask you the last question, I just wanted to say that we're here in an old restaurant that is no longer a restaurant out on the street here in Inglewood. And so there's a lot of outdoor noise, could rain, could hail, motorcycles going by. I just wanted to address that. And I'm very grateful for this space.
Yeah, it's a beautiful space.
Yeah, I think the space is going to be more of like an artist space, access to artists and their process. Okay, I'd like to ask you, as this motorcycle is driving by, about some. So my question is, what are some ideas that you feel could help more people invite this idea of coaching? What are some issues that you see now, and what are some ideas that you might have to like bring more unity and community?
Well, I mean, coaching is actually quite new, right, in this world compared to psychology, mentoring, stuff like that. So I think a lot of people are just unsure of what coaching is, right? I know, when people see a psychologist, there's a stigma of, oh, you're seeing a psychologist. What's wrong with you? And nothing has to be wrong in order to see a psychologist per se, right? With coaching, it's so widespread. Like, you can get a coach for so many different reasons, right? You can get a financial coach. If you have a financial goal, say you want to make $100,000 this next year, you can get a financial coach to kind of help you and motivate you to achieve that. Okay. You can have a relationship coach who can help you with the relationships with significant other or even with yourself, right? There's a mindset coach which will help you discover what you have and how to present that in the real world. And there's so many different kinds of coaches out there. So the thing is with coaching is, I find like a lot of people will feel more comfortable seeing being coached rather than seeing a psychologist, because of the fact that we're on the same level, so it's very comforting to know, as a client, because I have been a client as well, coaching, that there's somebody there that I can speak with, and I didn't say speak to, but speak with, because it's a conversation, that gives me a safe, open space to be vulnerable. And I mean, like I said, in order for me to change myself, it starts with me, and I think that's what coaching will help people do, is discover themselves more, in order for them to improve or reach their goals, whether it is financial or a career change or whatever it is. So, I mean, with what's been going on with the world, these past couple of years with the whole pandemic and everything, there's been a lot of change happening in this world. A lot of people have and still are going through a lot of transition. There's been a lot of severed relationships, people not getting along with their parents, their significant other, themselves. There's been a lot of career changes going on. A lot of people have had to change careers. There've been a lot of people who aren't financially stable, and are looking to find ways to get back to that place. And that's where I would recommend coaching for people that just want to get back to themselves, because a lot of people have been lost.
And there's been a lot of isolation and separation.
Yes.
I feel like sometimes, I'll speak for myself as an artist,
Mhm.
because I choose this path. Sometimes, even pandemic or no pandemic, I can feel alone in this journey. So it's always a reminder to plug in and connect with community,
Definitely.
because isolation is, yeah, like, and with the pandemic, there's been so much separation. Like, how do we even start to be around each other physically? Some people, some of us can still feel uncomfortable being in the same, like physically in the same space. So how can, thinking about even sharing how we feel and connecting, like trying to reconnect, that's a big thing, I think, after the pandemic,
Oh
or
yeah.
during this pandemic.
Right.
Okay, thank you. As you share what you do, what are some points that people that cross your path bring up based on reasons why they don't want to get coaching?
Um, I mean, like I said, I just think that a lot of people don't really know what coaching
Means,
is,
right?
right? Like when I do speak to people about coaching, they're like, "Oh yeah, like they think they know what coaching is until I ask them, like, do you really know what coaching is or what I do as a coach?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, you like mentor me," and then so they don't really know exactly what coaching is. So I hope this kind of helps spread the word on
Yeah,
what
totally.
coaching actually is.
Yes, it's all about having a voice. So I'm just so grateful that you're here because um, I'd like to think this is a space where this project can facilitate your voice and your message. Um, yeah, I did happen upon a coach that where I thought this was during the pandemic and the Christmas holidays were coming,
Yeah.
and I'd like to think that I'm kind of becoming more self-aware, so that so when the holidays were coming, I reached out. I had access to some support, so I made this phone call, and I was expecting more counseling.
Right.
This woman said, "Well, I'm actually more of a life coach. What are you looking for?" And I said, so I presented, this is what I'm anticipating during the holidays. It's a sensitive topic for a lot of people, and I think our mom passed away. It might have been just the year before the holidays, the Christmas holidays were coming. So I told this person, this is kind of what I'm expecting. A lot of, like, whether it's family relationships or just my own emotionality, and um, the pandemic making me feel really stuck in Calgary. I presented these ideas to her, and I was pleasantly surprised because it was exactly that. She asked me certain questions. She did not tell me what to do. She asked very specific questions, and it made me realize that when I made my list of goals, it wasn't so much about, okay, I want a red car or something.
Right.
It was more like, this is what I value in my life. So it could look so many different ways.
Right.
But my life could look a certain way, but at least I know why I'm doing these things because I value A, B, and C. And so I ended up having a life coach when I thought I was getting a counselor,
Right.
like
That's
or a
beautiful.
psychologist.
Yeah.
And it was really beautiful because I learned so much about myself,
Right.
and I started to navigate myself differently in terms of places in my life where I was already experiencing some conflict. I really learned to take more responsibility and say, okay, even before I enter into the situation,
Right.
I can sort out my mindset, I can take accountability, and things started, the trajectory, like you said, in your day, my trajectory really started to shift.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And the thing was, like, with coaching, what we usually do is we start off with something called a discovery call. So within that discovery meeting, what we're trying to do in those, it's usually around 30 minutes, right? And what we do there is we try to establish what your goal is as a client, what my goal is as me being your coach, but what's most importantly is that if we are compatible, right? Like I'm not going to take on a client that I don't feel I can be compatible with, right? And I hope that they wouldn't take me on as a coach if they didn't feel that same feeling,
Doesn't resonate, yeah.
right? So it's not like, you're paying me, so you're a client and I'm a coach and this and that. There has to be that connection there in order for the relationship to progress.
Yeah, I'm thinking synergy.
Synergy, yeah, I like that word.
Yeah.
And because the goals, I mean, your goals can always change, right? Like constantly changes, right? So it's not even about just reaching your big goal, but it's about enjoying the journey, the process, enjoying your day to day, celebrate the small wins, and that's what's important. Because like once you achieve that big goal, it's going to change. But you got to enjoy the process and have trust in the process. And that to me is what I'm learning every day,
I do. I totally hear you.
Yeah.
I think that generally in kind of the society we live in, the narrative that we're told to like arrive somewhere or achieve that end goal is challenging because I, especially as artists, it's I forget who I was listening to, but it might have been Gabor Mate. I'm not sure, but he mentioned something about artists. Artists, it's about us being in the process of creation. It's not always the end goal, which is challenging because people come to watch the show. They go to the gallery opening. They watch the film, but us as artists really enjoy the journey before the audience gets to see the final product, right? And that's the messaging that we get all the time is, even, it's the premiere of a film. And I'm not discounting the premiere of the film, but I feel like when it comes to filmmaking or, working with the cast or the directors or the crew, it's that's experience
the journey,
that we all hold,
And I think society today makes it tough for you to enjoy the journey. Like, for example, like traveling, going on a holiday, right? A lot of people will be like, okay, we get to go to Hawaii, right? But a lot of people's mentality these days is that the vacation doesn't begin until we get to Hawaii. Whereas back in the day, going to the airport, taking that flying that trip is a part of the holiday, right? So, but a lot of people nowadays think that, oh great, I have to go to the airport, I have to line up, I gotta go through like 3 security checks. I got it's in their head, it's not a part of the vacation anymore. It's like the headache.
Exactly.
I get to Hawaii.
Exactly.
So if you can, try to enjoy that process of, of lining up, of going to the airport, it's all a part of it.
Yeah, and it's such a privilege too. It's a great reminder that like you said, it's the headache. I have to go on this plane. It's like a plane is actually flying you across the world in like 6 hours,
Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great reminder. And it's so true because our society, there's just so much instant gratification that I think practicing like what you're talking about is really a gift to get us. I think of like enjoyment. Are we enjoying this journey, or are we gonna muscle through the headache and then think we're gonna feel better once we arrive there? Right. I think that's a challenging perspective to live with. So where can we find you in terms of your coaching or even your body work? Like, do you have a website or do you have?
Yeah, actually my website is being constructed as we speak.
Okay, great.
But
it's in the process.
Yeah, it should be done this week actually.
Okay,
so
cool.
Hopefully, but it's behealthandwellness.com.
Right, behealthandwellness.com.
Yeah, I'm also on Instagram, and that is b.healthandwellness. And there, you can find everything I do. Right now I'm trying to build up my social media presence. So I'm posting 3 to 5 times a day.
I see them and I appreciate all the positivity.
Yeah, and that's what I try to do in my posts, is try to create just, positiveness and things that people can look at daily and hopefully motivate them.
Get a reminder, yeah.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people don't really know what their gratifications are. They're not sure of what they're thankful for. But if you can wake up every morning and write down, I suggest journaling, writing down, 3 things that you're grateful for today. What a great way to start off your day.
I agree. I think some of us might think some people think it's kind of cheesy or, but I will admit that when I get myself into that headspace, I do a list of 10.
Wow.
And then I'm like,
good for you.
Okay, then it's like my lenses have changed.
Yeah.
And then I get up from the table and I'm like, all right, let's do this.
I never journaled before until I started this life coaching course, the Jay Shetty life coaching course, and a lot of that has to do with just getting my thoughts and my feelings and my reflections down on paper, because I would always think about them before, but I never wrote them down. So they would come into my head and leave by the end of the day. Now I can write them down, and at the end of the day, go back and look at it and be like, wow, this is what I wrote down earlier today. This is what I felt at that present moment. What do I feel right now? And then I'll write down my reflections at the end of the day, how my day went and what I'm thankful for that happened. And then I also set goals for tomorrow as well, and that's a big part of moving forward, is setting yourself up for success. So, a lot of people just go day to day without having daily goals or anything, and they're unmotivated in the morning. Like they lay in bed, they're like, oh, I gotta go to work, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, but they don't think that they have to write down their goals. If you can set 3 goals for your day and write them down the night before, when you wake up in the morning, first thing you think is, all right, I got 3 goals I have to achieve today, let's go do this. You kind of motivate yourself. So I've gotten into journaling since then.
That's awesome. I think it's very much like preparation, and then versus reacting to something that's happened and be like, now I have to, now it's a headache for me to fix this, versus like preparing as much as you can anyway. Like things happen.
It's you got to make things habitual.
Yes.
In order, like Einstein's famous quote, it's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting change, a different outcome, right? So if you want to change your life, you got to start changing your habits.
Yes.
And that's the only thing, and nobody can do that for you but yourself.
Yeah. We have more power than we realize. I like that idea of habits, and I'm going to wrap up. I want to kind of bring this full circle, because a habit is just something that you practice, or you repeat it, right? And one of my guests, Ben Pipestem, came on to talk about, and we did a smudge earlier today, before we started rolling, and he shared the ceremony of smudge. And it's that habit, whether it's something that's not good for ourselves, you're practicing a ceremony that you can switch to having. You can have a ceremony that'll set you off on a more positive, into a more positive headspace, right? And it's that idea, that habit, that ceremony of saying, okay, I'm going to wake up in the morning. You will wake up at 5 a.m. I might not be up that early. And then the ceremony of, whether it's smudge, the ceremony of meditation, the ceremony of writing down your thoughts, expressing yourself. So
no, it's and that's what it is, right? Like I meditate daily, and I tell a lot of people that, and a lot of people, well, I don't meditate, I suck at it, and I'm like, I suck at it too. That's why I do it every day. I'm like, I'm never gonna be a master meditator, It's an everyday practice. I have to force myself to practice meditating on the daily, and I've made that a habit of mine. I've made it habitual to do that every day. I try to do an hour of meditation a day, not all at once, but.
And that's a good note too. Yeah, practice 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour. And it makes me think of the idea of a coach. A coach, it's like if you're playing basketball, you have a coach, and you practice. You go to your practice and you practice playing basketball before the game. So.
Right. Yeah. And that's another thing with coaching too, right? Like I don't have to be the best at something in order for me to coach somebody, right? For example, like Wayne Gretzky, like the greatest hockey player. He wasn't the best coach by any means. Michael Jordan, the best basketball player, he didn't even coach. So you don't have to be the best at something in order for you to motivate or coach somebody. And that's why the whole learning as a coach continues to grow. Yeah, forever a student.
Yeah, forever a student.
Yeah, I love that saying.
Yes, thank you. I feel like a student doing this. I feel very privileged to be doing this podcast, because I feel like I'm a student always listening. And I'm going to thank you so much, Chris. And I'm looking forward to the next time that we could do more of this. Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I love it. I had so much fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you next time. Thanks,
Definitely.
all audience people, for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome.